So, you want to know about states, huh? You want to know how some states became one and how Utah statehood was different, huh? You want to know how exactly 2 states got statehood and Utah statehood was different, huh? Well, you came to the right place. I'm David from the 1800s, and I'm gonna talk about the many paths to statehood and how 2 states became a state and how Utah's journey was different from the others. Now, I've traveled far and wide throughout the U.S. country, and Utah has definitely had some unique ways to gain statehood. So we'll compare 2 states with Utah and how a normal state gained statehood and how Utah was different. But before we get into that, make sure to subscribe for the channel over there. So pay up. Thanks. Now let's get into Utah's strange journey into statehood. So these are Mormons. Hi. They are people who do believe in God, but have a different view on His ways and what happens in heaven. Now they have traveled through various states until they finally settled in their own piece of land called State of Deseret. At the time, Mormons were constantly kicked out of states or sentenced to death and suffrage. They even lost their leader Joseph F. Smith to a mob while he was in jail, and was later replaced with Brigham Young. They used to name it State of Deseret because they named it after a name in their holy book, though it wasn't a state yet. It was a valley instead. Sir, why name it State of Deseret when it isn't even a state? It soon will be. And what if it doesn't become one? Just trust the process! So when it was time for them to ask the government to become a state, there were a few problems. First, their population was 12,000 instead of 60,000, their parties didn't associate well with the government, and they had a whole thing with polygamy. Now this wasn't good for the Mormons, because they were in a serious rush to gain statehood. More or less, desperate.
So you're telling me that they had to get more people into their valley, change their parties, and stop doing polygamy?
Exactly right. So thus started 40 years of Mormons begging the government to have statehood. The first thing they started with is the population. They started by spreading around and offering more people to join their valley. They eventually got enough people and asked the government again to become a state, but were rejected again. So they changed their parties, asked again, and were still rejected. This was difficult for the Mormons. I mean, it was a whole thing for them. It's like that best friend you hang out with all your life that you just can't let go. So after some deep thinking, they finally agreed to stop polygamy.
What do you want now?
In your face!
Okay.
So after some more begging, and a sprinkle of tasks, they finally became a state. Yes, statehood. Now the State of Deseret is an actual state.
It's called Utah.
Now if you didn't get all that in your memory, here's a film my brother from 3rd grade made. A true artist indeed.
Hey, we found this island, so can it be a state? No. You need to complete these 3 tasks. Later! Okay, I did this. Now can it be a state? No, you need to do these other ones. Later! I did this. Now can it be a state? You still need to stop this. Fine. Later! I did this. Now can it be a state? Yes. Yay! The end.
That was a wild ride, huh? But it ain't over yet. You still gotta compare it with the other states. But what state should we start with? Well, I'd say Louisiana. Anyways, all know the Louisiana Purchase, right? Well, after that purchase, Louisiana had to become a state by getting 60,000 people in its state. Not so different from Utah, except Utah was told without knowing that you need to have 60,000 people, and they had to do 2 other things. And after Louisiana reached that goal, they became a state. It was almost as simple as me playing the piano in perfect Spanish.
Mañana siempre y hasta el fin, mi corazón está.
Anyways, let's get on to the next one. West Virginia. This is a pretty interesting one. It was originally just one big part of Virginia, but West Virginia had other plans and decided to split from Virginia and became their own state. It was a while until they asked to be a state, but first they had to set their slaves free, so afterwards they finally became their own independent state. And we already know that from the revised Constitution, which you can see right here. It's pretty cool, huh? Out of the way, in comparison to Utah, it was different and similar in some way. They are both similar in a way of having to do certain tasks to gain statehood, as West Virginia had to free their slaves, and Utah had to change their parties. And they also had to increase their population and stop doing polygamy. But the differences are how it wasn't that difficult for West Virginia to let go of their slaves, but Utah had it difficult for letting go of polygamy. Nowadays, in the future, Alaska had to do some tasks to become a state, just like Utah and the other states. So in conclusion to all this, states throughout history have had to do at least one task in order to become a state. So overall, if you ever want to start a state, make sure to increase your population and to follow every rule the government tells you about statehood, because in that way, you can actually get a state without having to do any second asking or extra work. Anyways, thanks for watching. This took a while to make, but it was worth it. And if you're my classmates watching this, just know that I wouldn't be able to animate all this if it wasn't with the help of my brother Isaac. I'll put the link to his channel right down there. No, the link! Well, shoot, tootin' horn.
David, from the 1800s, how do you know that stuff you mentioned about the future? Why, you wizard?
Now you shut your ding-dong and horn.